now is Walker Bragman of the Daily Poster. He is a reporter, a journalist, and he's been covering politics, progressive politics, for some years now. Walker, thank you for joining us. How are you this morning?
I'm not bad, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing good. Listen, man, it's been a while since we had a chance to speak, but the times that we've covered these stories, we both cover them from the perspective of what can we actually get done for the people. And I was just been looking through your work in general, but listening to your stance on some things, and I'm curious, what let's talk about some specific tangible things that this country can do, not only for Black people but for poor and marginalized communities across this country in general. And one of the first things is we talk about the student loans, the fact that student loans could be canceled right now. We talk about HR1, the fact that voting rights need to be protected for all marginalized communities right now. But then we also see the filibuster being used by Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, and almost used as a foil, as an excuse for Democrats to say, well, we can't do anything. So they're more than happy to give us holidays. They're more than happy to give us, symbolism. But when it comes time to actually getting results, it's little to none. What are your thoughts?
Ben, I think you're absolutely right. But I do want to push back on the idea that reparations is not a tangible benefit for everybody, because if you lift up, particularly the Black community in America, that benefits everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No, no,
I
I don't know. I'm not sure if I phrased it poorly like that, but
no,
no,
no.
I
Look,
totally
I
agree.
know that
If
it's.
you, if you, if we're waiting on our reparations, rep one, hashtag rep one. Go ahead, Walker. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I think that issue in particular gets framed as like a specific benefit for just one segment of the population. But the truth is that, first of all, not only is it a debt owed, but it would lift up everybody. You like, one of the easiest things to do would be to pump money into the Black community. And
Yeah, I mean, it's straightforward, right? It's the
yeah,
same thing we saw with the stimulus package with
exactly,
when you put
exactly.
money into the hands of the people, that money stimulates the economy, but also, so it
Yep.
doesn't only just benefit the person that received the money, it benefits the entirety of of the nation. And so reparations, what you're saying is reparations absolutely is not only a benefit for Black people, but it's a benefit for this country as a whole.
Exactly. And you know what? You also mentioned student debt cancellation. That's another thing that we could do. That there was a study done that the more debt you cancel, the greater the impact on the racial wealth gap. And so student debt cancellation is another thing that you could do. A single payer healthcare system would benefit everybody. I mean, everybody. It's healthcare in America, especially now after COVID, is just, if you got to see that it's not working.
Yeah.
And I think most people understand that. I know you understand that. You've been on this for years. That's why I've been such a big fan of yours for years.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. No,
Uh,
and I don't want to breeze past any of these tangible results, because these are the things that are, at least they're on the board. The possibility of student debt being canceled, that's on the board. Whether or not it'll happen, that depends on the administration. The possibility of a single payer system, it may be years away, but it's on the board. These are actually things that can bring not only the material benefit to Black people and to marginalized communities in general, but these are the things that these corporations are going to be fighting like hell to preserve, because
oh
they
yeah.
make so much money doing it. Like, if we think about the healthcare industry, the billions of dollars that are made, the hundreds of billions of dollars that are made in profit, that they're not going to go down fighting easily. They're going to fight like hell. Tell us about what we can expect from opposition, generally speaking, when it comes time to doing something for the people, because it seems as though as soon as we try to do something for folks in this country that actually is meaningful, then we get all of the opposition. Then we get people who won't people who won't vote down the filibuster.
Well, this is the big problem in our system. I mean, there are a host of problems, but this is one that I think underlies every other issue. Is that there are a lot of as long as money is allowed to just run wild, change is a long shot. And you might get half measures that don't really solve the problem, and they'll be framed as giant accomplishments. And I think we saw that with the Affordable Care Act. It was an effort to do something without attacking the underlying problem in our healthcare system, which is the for-profit motive. But yeah, I mean, every time, even on the most minimal of changes, you see major industry opposition. And unfortunately, the more money that gets spent per election cycle, the more necessary money becomes, and those
Mhm.
donors become in the next election cycle. So it's a, you know, I don't want to keep saying the word cycle, but it is a vicious cycle.
No, I was gonna echo the same thing. It is literally a vicious cycle. One more thing, Walker, your work over at the Daily Post and some of your recent articles you've been writing about the environment, environmental justice, but also the money that's behind stopping progress on that front. We've had a couple of guests on who have talked about the importance of environmental justice, not only from the Black community's perspective, but for the broader humanity, to be quite honest with this with you. Talk to us about that entrenched money as it pertains to some of the environmental issues you've been covering over at the Daily Poster.
So yeah, so I mean, Biden pledged that he would tackle climate change, and he got a lot of good press for his plan when it on the let's let's go back to the campaign trail when Biden's advisor said, "Well, we're looking for a middle ground," and they took a lot of flack for that. But afterward, they released this plan, and it got a lot of good press. The environmental groups were surprised, I think, because it was not a bare minimum plan. It still didn't include things like banning fracking, but it was more than I think progressives were expecting. But in this administration, which is the best on climate change in my lifetime, you still have very entrenched fossil fuel interests within the administration itself. Like
Mm,
climate envoy John Kerry is invested in fossil fuels. Susan Rice, policy advisor, also invested in fossil fuels. Eric Lander, science advisor, invested in fossil fuels. And just recently, there was a story. Neil McBride, who was tapped as general counsel of the Treasury Department, sued the Treasury Department on behalf of Exxon. Back in 2017. I mean, it's like we have to do something about money in politics, and we have to get it under control, because climate justice, as you said, is essential. It's essential for marginalized communities in the United States, but also globally in the global South. I mean, if climate change could make the equatorial band unlivable,
mm,
which, I mean, it's unthinkable, but
mm.
it could make living at the equator impossible.
Man, I'm laughing because it is for not crying because of the seriousness with which the seriousness that we're faced with in this country, on this planet, the issues. We're talking about life or death here.
Yeah,
And
for millions of people.
for millions of people, and we're literally doing um we're playing this game with our lives. We're playing a game of Russian roulette with our lives over some money.
Yeah,
And that money, not only in terms of the greed of the people making the money, but also the greed of the people receiving the money in Washington, D.C. And it's because of policies like that that we're absolutely unable to get the kind of progress that we need. One last thing. I know I said the last question was going to be the last question, but the more you speak, the more I want to unpack with you. I would like for you to just kind of reflect, though, on how this is not an American phenomenon. We're seeing this type of um, right wing plutocracy on a global scale. We're seeing this lean towards fascism on a global scale,
yep,
and we're seeing it not only infiltrate. It's at every level. It's at a national level. It's at our local level, and it's really tied into greed. At the end of the day, it's tied into bigotry. It's tied into the desire for wealth. But it's something that we're facing almost like a game of chicken. we're looking at all of the intransigence, all the intransigence. We're looking at all of the greed. We're looking at all of the money in politics, but we're also looking at an impending doom when we talk about the environment, when we talk about the clash of cultures, when we talk about all the things that we're facing. We're really, they're playing games with it. And I quite honestly, it's not just America. Talk about it.
You know, that's a really, really good point because the longer we delay in acting, the worse, the higher the likelihood that we face catastrophic consequences. And you know, it's it's really disheartening, I have to say, sometimes to watch the discourse in this country because it's very much like we get focused on like pet issues. I know, not you, but there have been people on the left who have made politics all about one politician or another, and whether or not that politician has betrayed them, or and like, you know, these are very, very deep systemic issues that we need to attack, and we need to look at them as systemic issues and understand that it's way bigger than one politician
Yeah.
who you know, you feel may have betrayed one
Yeah.
one promise or another. Like these issues that we you know, people have to organize, they have to mobilize. We got to keep talking about them, because having it in the conversation, you keep those things on the table. You keep Medicare for all on the table. You keep
Yeah.
$15 minimum wage and debt cancellation. Those have to be normalized.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's not happening in Washington because of the money, it has to happen at the grassroots level, and that's why shows like yours are so important. And voices like yours are so important. So I really want to thank you for having me on today.
No, it's our pleasure, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you over at everyone over at the Daily Poster.